Welcome back, superstar. I'm here with Phil M. Jones, international speaker, author of the book, Exactly What to Say. 1.4 million copies sold worldwide. He's trained 2 million salespeople. And we're here to talk about words to avoid when you're trying to influence ourselves. Welcome, Phil.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
All right. There are words that we must avoid when we're trying to influence and sell. Why is this important information right here?
Well, much of my work, people think that I focus on this whole area of exactly what to say.
Yeah.
What we don't give much time to is exactly what not to say. And the awareness of actually the regular usage of some of these very precise words is unintentionally sabotaging sales conversations everywhere.
Yeah.
So just removing these words from your vocabulary could be a game changer. It can instantly change the game to all of a sudden people are more likely to see what it is you're saying or give you the grace of having the conversation we're looking for.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about essentially underneath all this, you're a master communicator and you know a lot about the subconscious.
That's right.
Going on here. So these words, they have baggage, don't
That's right.
they?
Yep. Huge amounts of baggage jump to instant connotations because of the fact that they've been applied as labels towards other things in our life, and then you transfer that label in. And every word that you reach for is either adding to your success or it's removing from your success.
Okay.
No word is neutral. And I think that decision of you being able to add hyper-intentionality to your language, particularly removing the ones that are adding friction or causing pain, is one of the fastest ways that you can accelerate your success in all conversations, particularly sales conversations.
All right. So before we dive into these words, I do want to invite you all to watch all of my videos with Phil. They are so good. So we have them in a playlist, linking to it down below. Put that on your to-do list because these videos are so powerful for sales, for influence, even for more joy and connection with other people. So let's dive into some of these words. What's the very first word that comes to mind when you're saying absolutely stop using this word in sales?
The first word I would say to ban is a 4-letter word, and I'm sure we can think of a lot of 4-letter words to ban in sales conversations. This is specifically a 4-letter C word that we should ban. And the 4-letter C word we should ban is the word cost. And the question I ask is how do you feel about your cost in your life? If somebody was to say to you it cost me, what we're really saying is it hurt. And then if somebody's asking you how much does it cost, you're saying here's how much I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what comes back. When you say it costs $1,000 a month, or it costs $5,000, or it costs just $297, then what we're actually doing is that we're attaching pain. Cost is money out and nothing back.
That's right.
By alternative, I'm guessing that anybody who's selling anything with integrity delivers returns for the money they bring in. And if money comes in and then that money delivers returns, well, that thing would more often than not be called an investment.
That's right.
So just repackaging. You're asking somebody to invest in your coaching services, invest in your training products, invest in your support. All of a sudden, that's smarter money to spend. Same sum of money, packaged differently. Why? Because I believe that this isn't money out and nothing back. This is money out that brings returns. Smarter money to spend.
Beautiful.
Just a tiny little simple swap in language.
Love it. All right, Phil, what's the second word that we should avoid?
Well, why don't we look at two in one here? And let's stay on this area about packaging price, because I think this is one of the biggest challenges people have when it comes to being able to sell anything. So the next I would say is probably the word expensive. And we often hear the word expensive rather than we use the word expensive, but we need to remove it from the vocabulary.
Right.
And when somebody says that it's expensive, we have to understand there's some contrast to this. It's expensive compared to what?
Right.
Is a Rolls Royce expensive? Many would say, well, yes. But compared to a Bugatti Veyron, it's like chump change, right? It's small fry. But compared
I didn't know that, but okay.
But compared to a Ford or most of the Ford range, yes, it is expensive. So expensive is compared to something, and it is a judgment.
It is.
Nothing actually is expensive. But also, we have to remember is, do people like expensive things?
They do.
Right? So more often than not, we are actually in love of things that have a high level of expense to it. Yeah, in a sales conversation, when somebody says, wow, that sounds expensive, our immediate thought is this is a bad thing. They can't afford it. What we're looking to be able to do is to introduce new language around price. If somebody says, wow, that sounds expensive, then you can say, yes, this is one of our premium offerings.
Beautiful.
Right? So we're going to swap the word expensive for the word
Premium. I like it.
And now all of a sudden, people can decide, well, am I the kind of person who buys a premium offering?
There you go.
Not, that's too expensive. Because if I swap the word in the conversation to the word premium, then all of a sudden what they're doing is they're saying, well, actually, I can borrow a buying habit from elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're more likely to lean in and say, oh, is there anything else you have that might be a little cheaper?
So is that the other word?
What's the other word we want to swap, right? Because they might say, is it cheaper? But we don't have anything in our offering that is cheap, right?
No,
because if
because we're premium.
Well, if something is cheap and something, what's an adjective that follows cheap? It's cheap and...
Low quality.
Yep, cheap and low quality, cheap and cheerful, cheap and nasty. Like it can be any of these things. If it's cheap and something, like it's icky. So we can't allow the word cheap to exist unless we're doing it with hyper-intentionality, right? Unless you're purposefully going to that kind of space. So we want to swap the word cheap for the word value or essential is a nice way of being able to say, yes, we've got an essential offering that gives you everything you need and nothing you don't.
Got it.
And now again, this is easier money to spend. See, when people say you've got a cheaper offering versus your expensive offering, what they end up doing is accepting the cheaper offering is true, but it's not for them. They don't take owner of it. We don't want to own expensive. We don't want to own cheap. Why? Because we want to feel smart in our decision making.
Yeah.
We can choose a premium offering. We can choose an essential offering.
Yeah.
We can choose a value offering.
Right.
But we're not going to use cheap or expensive, even though our customers use those words with us all the time. We're looking to be able to reframe them.
All right, everyone, taking a moment here to share something really exciting with you. I know you love to learn on video. That's why you're here. And Phil was part of an initial cohort of people doing something kind of brand new, which is these video books by Lit Video. So you all can go here, follow this link I'm pointing to, and check out Phil's video book by Lit Videos about exactly what to say.
Well, what we're really looking to be able to do is to uncover challenges. When you say the problem I see with what you're doing right now, you create conflict. Why? Because I say the problem I see with, then you say, well, I ain't got no problems. And when you say somebody has a problem, you win as many friends as telling somebody they have an ugly baby.